boy, I tell you, Mondo or somebody, boy, they on top of the JLB tonight. Hey, welcome to Let's Talk Nation. I'm your man, Rod Love. Sitting right next to me is the General, Attorney Greg Jackson.
Once again, it's on, Brother Love. Hey, you know how we get this thing started every week, man. How was your weekend this past weekend,
Man, the weekend was great, Greg. I mean, happy belated Father's Day to you, brother.
Man, same to you, man.
But you know something? I really shouldn't even be saying that to you.
Why?
Because, Greg, when you do your fathering year round,
Oh, yeah.
you know, that commercial day is just that, a commercial day.
But yeah, for those who need the recognition.
For those who need the recognition. So, but anyway, man, I got to tell you, Greg, when we talk about how was my weekend, I'm not even going to talk about my weekend.
Yeah.
I want to give some applause, man, some accolades to a good friend of ours, supervisor of election, Orange County, Mr. Glenn Galzine. Man, District 5.
Yeah.
The race that's taking place tomorrow, the election that's taking place tomorrow, man, Glenn actually kind of gave Souls to the Polls a little boost.
Okay.
He got on the speaking circuit. He went to multiple churches, and Greg, I know you know this better than me, and I know hopefully my father-in-law is not listening. But Glenn got up in the pulpit, man, and he started talking about faith without work is dead. And he said, do your work, go vote.
Yeah.
I ain't telling you who to go vote for, but go vote. And man, Greg, Glenn Galzine, man, everywhere he goes, he puts that touch of excellence on it and engage the churches, man. And I mean, things such as saying to the churches, I want to support you from an outreach perspective. And I know some of your needs are transportation, putting gas in those vans, printing up flyers and things of that nature. He presented some of those organizations, man, with checks just large enough to help them put gas in vans, print some flyers, go out and tell people about the importance of voting.
Yeah.
And Greg, he was working this weekend, man.
All right, kudos to him, man. Good job. Good job on that. Also, this weekend, for those who don't know, this weekend there were a number of Juneteenth celebrations across Central Florida. And as a matter of fact, there was one in the great city of Apopka. And I had a chance to see your father-in-law, the Reverend Richard King. Also had a chance to see, the Apopka mayor. He asked about you, as well as Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Velasquez. So they were all out there supporting the Juneteenth event, which I think was outstanding. My daughter was actually out there. She had like a little area set aside to where she had the young people out there teaching them about key figures in African American history, because in addition to February, they give us a short month. In addition to February, she wanted to take this time to also educate, some young people about, the various individuals throughout Black history with coloring. So they're out there coloring and doing all of that stuff, man. So it was a great time, man. A great time.
Good, man. Good. Well, Greg, man, a lot is going on, man. And, just kind of, I know I gave you the rapid fire last week.
Right.
But Greg, if you would, man, just kind of bring people up to speed and we could slow it down just a little bit. The Hunter Biden conviction, what's the latest on that, man?
Well, I think what the people really want to hear before we get to the Hunter Biden thing, Brother Love, is that if you're listening to these two voices right now, you're tuned in to two of the most influential voices in Central Florida on Monday Night Podcast, Brother Love and Greg Jackson, the dynamic duo guaranteed to raise your IQ 10 to 15 points. And on some nights, Brother Love, and tonight might be that night, we might give them 20 to 25 points. But if you want to be a part of the night show, all you got to do is hit 321-483-702 to talk to two of the most influential voices in Central Florida on Monday Night Radio. This ain't radio no more, this is a podcast. But anyway, you're going to be able to talk to us and you're going to have a great time. Brother Love, let's
get it on. Man, I tell you, I love that. Man, hey, Greg, and before you hit Hunter Biden, man, I got to get some props to one of our friends, man. And I don't know if you saw this over the weekend. You familiar with Florida Man Radio?
I've heard of it, yeah.
It got sold.
Oh, okay. Now I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It got sold. And I tell you what, man, the Don Miller Show, man. Don was really cranking it up over there.
Yeah.
Shannon Burke. And Greg, I know that some folk think about the competition, but I also look at our colleagues, man, and the things that they engage us with, man. They're going to find another platform.
Right.
But when I tell you, man, they were lighting things on fire. From all the way to Tallahassee, man, down to the beaches.
Yeah.
So-
Which is about 800 some odd miles of beaches. That's a long way, but
Long way. But okay, Greg, bring us back home, man. Give us a recap, man, on the Hunter Biden.
So yeah, we're gonna talk about the Hunter Biden thing, though. But Brother Love, we're gonna have a real conversation tonight, and I can hardly wait.
Okay.
I can hardly wait because there's some stuff that's taking place here in Orlando, and I see some folks jumping on right now because they are wanting to hear intently about what's taking place with this District 5 race.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff that's been taking place, Brother Love, that we got to talk about. But Hunter Biden, Brother Love, the last time we talked last week, we talked about the fact that Hunter Biden was on trial in Delaware, his home state. He was there on federal gun charges where they indicated that they alleged that he lied on a gun application by saying that he was not addicted to drugs or taking illegal drugs at the time that he purchased the gun. And come to find out, Brother Love, not only was he sleeping with his deceased brother's wife, his sister-in-law, and I'm assuming the mother of his niece or nephew or whatever it is, but he was also on crack cocaine.
Wow.
And so much so, Brother Love, that he actually had his own personal crack dealer that he would communicate with and all these other things. But he just so happened to forget that at the time that he was filling out that gun application, Brother Love, that where asked, are you taking any illegal drugs, he forgot to check yes.
Yes.
And so the jury came back, I think it was less than a day of deliberations, finding Hunter Biden guilty on all three charges of gun fraud in that particular case. Now, that opens up, Brother Love, because now Hunter Biden, in essence, is a convicted felon. Now, that's importance of that, and it has nothing to do with the Donald Trump trial and all the other things, but the importance of that is that in October, Hunter Biden is going to be in court yet again.
For what?
This time on federal tax fraud, where it's alleged that he failed to pay taxes, $1.4 million in taxes between 2016 and 2019. So now just imagine while he's sitting there, one of the questions may be, and this is a criminal case, so he doesn't have to testify, but one of the questions is going to be, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
And so now he has to say yes.
And now he has to say yes, and that may play in a part of his credibility.
So Greg, what are some of the penalties now based on this conviction that he has? What are some of the penalties? I mean, is he facing any jail time, or is, I know it can go the spectrum, but
Right.
what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, so for each of the counts, it is up to 25 years in prison. But thankfully for Hunter Biden, this is the first time that he has been convicted of this type of crime. And typically, these crimes are not brought up unless someone has a gun. And that gun is used in the commission of a crime, which this was not. He actually took the gun, his deceased brother's wife, who he was sleeping with, took the gun and threw it in the trash, which it could have become a part of the commission of a crime. But because it wasn't used in such a manner, this is his first time being convicted, he probably will avoid jail time in this particular case. Now, for the other case in California, that federal case, I'm not certain what's going to happen in that case.
Yeah. Well, I guess it continues, man.
Because remember, if you really and truly look at it, one of the most notorious gangsters in the history of America was not taken to federal prison because of committing murders or because of extorting people and all the other things. He was put in jail because of tax evasion. And by that, I am talking about none other than Al Capone. And so, listen, if they got Al Capone on something that simple and he spent quite a bit of time in prison because of that, it's quite possible that Hunter Biden may actually find himself in jail on the tax charge.
Well, again, man, I guess that is something to be continued. Greg, the next topic, man, that we're going into is one that we talked a little bit about on the sit-down, the 6 o'clock show, man, and I was just kind of surprised that a warning label on social media.
Yeah. This has been, this has been a long time coming, and I don't know if you remember, if you had a chance to talk about it, but I want to say about 6 or 7 months ago, they had the CEOs and former CEOs of major social media platforms. By that I mean Facebook, Twitter, formerly X, formerly known as Twitter. Dorsey was there at that
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg was there, and I forgot who the other platform was. But the senators or the congressmen and women at that time were actually asking and imploring them to apologize to the American public because of the dangers that that social media has posed to our young people. A number of young people have been subjected to online bullying. They have committed suicide because of online bullying. There have been sex trafficking incidences or issues because of social media and no protections for young people on social media. And so because of that, these congressional members were saying, look, you all have a role in what's taking place with our young people in society, and you need to apologize.
And you know, Greg, that's part and parcel of the conversation earlier, to the extent that, and I hate it. I hate when you look up and government has to regulate behavior. I hate the fact, and the questions that we were having earlier, man, wouldn't it be ideal if parents regulated their kids' engagement with social media platforms? But it's not a perfect world, so we know that that's not per se happening. But Greg, can you tell people what the role of the United States Surgeon General is?
Yeah, I was about to say, Brother Love, you living in Shangri-La. Listen, man, you want too much. You want your
too
cake
much?
and to eat it too. You want parents to have kids and be responsible?
And be responsible.
Come on,
That's
man.
too much, Greg.
Come on,
That's
who's that? That's Michael Irvin, your guy. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
You want too much. You want us to be living in Shangri-La, wherever that place is.
Sound too good.
Yeah, it sounds too good to be true. But no, all jokes aside, in the right circumstances, and I mean, in a lot of places in America, parents are doing things the right way. But there are parents who have lost control of their kids, and kids are on social media for hours and hours at the time. They spend more time on social media than they do looking in or reading a book. I see that school board member Melissa Byrd looks as if she's joined us, and I mean, she could probably attest to the fact, I don't want to put words in her mouth, that, hey, listen, it's important for kids to put down social media and be more attentive to what's in the school books.
On that note, and you know, and congratulations, and I know we'll get into it later, Greg, to school board member Melissa Byrd.
We may or we may not, Brother Love, because I got some stuff.
You got some stuff you got to talk about,
and I don't know I don't know if she want to have her name and what I'm about to say.
Okay,
so
well,
may or may not.
hey, but you know what? It's something to be said that you get no opposition because of the great job that you do.
Yeah.
You know, but Greg, here's something that we talked about on the 6 o'clock show, and
Now you asked me a question. I want to ask you a question. You don't be talking over the question now.
okay, which question do you? Because hey,
The Surgeon General. You said, what does the Surgeon
but
General do?
Yeah, let people know, man, because we talked about it on the earlier show. Tell people what the Surgeon General does.
So basically, the Surgeon General is just like the Attorney General is the lead attorney for these United States on the federal level. The Surgeon General is the lead healthcare provider for these United States, and his job or her job is to outline and to assess health issues in these United States and help to get us past health issues or health concerns, and in this particular case, mental health issues and concerns. And so for Vivek Murthy, is how I believe you pronounce his name, as a Surgeon General, Brother Love, I'm going to commend him, because I think that he has identified a very serious issue that is taking place with our young people in this country, and he is asking Congress to act on this very serious issue.
Serious enough that the Florida legislature last session was having and Greg, I don't know if it passed or not, but remember, it went back and forth regarding holding social media platforms accountable to where if kids 15 or 14 years old signed up for a social media account, that they had to actually get parental consent to do that.
Right.
I don't know where that went, but one of the things, man, the conversation that we were having earlier, Greg, I do believe, man, that we've reached a point in time that social media training and education needs to be mandatory in schools.
Listen, I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. And, you know, and management of time. I don't know why it is that we don't talk more about, and when I say we, I'm talking about as Americans, not us here on the show, but why we don't talk more about time management and helping those kids understand, well, you know, listen, because remember, when we were young, I don't know about you, Brother Love. When I was young, I would come home from school, I had to get my homework done. I had like an hour, 2 hours to get done, you know, chores. Then I could go outside and play. Then I had like a certain amount of time that was allotted to go outside and play. Then you come in, take a bath, and all this other stuff. Now, my time, Brother Love, in case anybody cares to know, my time was spent when I would come home. I would watch a little television before I started. The Flintstones were on.
The Flintstones?
I would enjoy an episode or two of the Flintstones. As I got older, Thundercats was on.
Okay,
And I would
okay.
enjoy an episode or two of Thundercats. And if I was feeling really, really good, Brother Love, sometimes Gilligan's Island would be on.
Oh,
and
so
I
you're
would
going
watch,
way back.
Yeah.
But see, in your time, Greg, as well as mine, it was in the absence of having one of these.
This and the games that these kids have now.
Well, what was
and
it?
it's been a long
I
time.
know back in my day, Atari.
Yeah.
You know.
No, listen, I mean, the reason why we didn't play video games, Brother Love, is because they weren't very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And if people out there, if you're in our age group, you remember that the video game that we had was this. You had a stick on this side, you had a stick on this side. And there was a little ball that went on one side.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if there was a line with a hole in the end, that was hockey.
Yeah.
If there was no line
So
at
you're
the
taking it
end
back.
and there was a line in the middle, that was
You're taking
tennis.
it back. You're
You see
taking
what I'm
it back.
saying? That was the games. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's only so much you can sit up there and play that game and hit the little ball at the top. If you get it right at the top, but yeah, that was the extent of our game. These games are so realistic now, brother. I was watching something, and because I'm watching this stuff now about the SR-71, which is the one of the fastest planes ever produced in the U.S. or in the world. And these games are so realistic. I was watching something, and I thought I was watching a demonstration of this U.S. jet, and it was a game
It was a
simulation.
game.
This is what these kids are looking at.
But
now.
great, think about this. Think about, and I'm gonna stay on the Surgeon General for a minute here,
Mhm.
because the Surgeon General, not this one in particular, but one in the past is the one who actually established for the tobacco warning label
Right.
that basically let people know this can cause cancer
Right.
and things of that nature. But think about what social media can do to folk, and I mean along the lines of activity. Kids are sitting up and they're no longer going out being active. This is leading to health problems.
Obesity.
Think about think about the mental health issues when you talk about bullying, when you talk about what do you call it, body shaming.
Well, sex trafficking also.
Yeah. So I mean, Greg, the door is wide open.
Yeah. So that's why I say, listen, I commend this Attorney General because he has identified a key issue that's affecting the health of kids in ways that we never would have thought of or contemplated as we were coming up, and our parents most certainly would not have either. And so, I mean, as we were saying, he's asking Congress to have social media platforms to put warning labels on these social media sites. And, unfortunately, the Surgeon General, while he can make the recommendation and point all these things out, he cannot implement it, which
Yeah.
is why he's asking Congress to act.
So Greg, what is, in your opinion, do you think social media companies are going to, at any point in time, be held accountable for some? I mean, you can put this warning label on it, but what does it do? I mean, I like the fact that, and I like it and I hate it that you have a government intervention.
Right.
But the fact that it was proposing that kids 14 or younger or 15 or younger couldn't get social media accounts unless they had parental consent. How do you, if you're 14 and something pops up to say, okay, I'm the parent of this, do you just check the box and proceed?
So the 14-year-old me would say, yeah, that's what I'm going to do, although I shouldn't have done it because that's what 14-year-olds do for the
Right.
most part. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that there has to be some other safeguards, but I think the other part of your question was, can social media platforms be held accountable for when bad things happen on their platform? And I make this akin to, like personal injury cases.
Mm-hmm.
If you go on someone's property or someone's premises, they have a duty to maintain that property or premises in a reasonably safe condition. It's a non-delegable duty, meaning they cannot pass that duty on to someone else to keep you safe while on their property. When you go onto a social media platform, if they are not keeping child predators off, if they're not keeping bullies off, and they have algorithms, literally, Brother Love, that can track certain things that people say,
Yeah.
certain things that people post on social media to where they can identify bad actors. They can do this stuff. And if they're able to do it and they're not doing it and children are being harmed on their platform, then yes, absolutely, in my opinion, I think that they should be held accountable for allowing dangerous conditions to exist on their platform.
Man, I'm wondering, Greg, where does this go? I mean, we do see, and I don't know where it stands now, where the focus is banning TikTok because it's owned by China or China needing to divest itself of TikTok. Greg, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if it goes to somebody else, does it really make that big of a difference?
Well, apparently it has to go to, and you know, because I did some research on it when it first came about, when President Biden first signed the bill, and I need to do some additional research because that's going to be an important question for people, because apparently this is a very real thing where TikTok has to, the Chinese government or the Chinese company has to divest itself of this majority stake in the interest of TikTok. Otherwise, it will not be able to be used here in the United States. Now, think about this, Brother Love. A lot of schools have already implemented this.
Okay.
There are a lot of schools, universities that do not allow certain social media platforms on their devices. And so, you know, listen, if it's keeping people safe, you know.
But Greg, also, I mean, this is the thing that you and I have heard a lot of conversation about, is the economic impact that this will have if TikTok goes away. I mean, people are making a livelihood on TikTok now.
Pick something else. You know how many platforms out there? TikTok is not the only platform. Matter of fact, TikTok ain't even the best platform.
It's not the best one. But which one do you believe, and we don't have an endorsement by any of them yet, but which one do you believe is one of the better platforms in terms of social media?
But it depends on what you're doing. You know, and not that I'm on this and not that I look at it, but I see that there are a lot of people that are making money on OnlyFans.
Oh, okay, okay.
Now, I'm not saying people should go and do that a bit, but on OnlyFans, it's just not explicit material on OnlyFans from my understanding.
But you know what?
That's my understanding.
You got a point when you talk about depends on what you do, because LinkedIn, when you're talking about profession,
LinkedIn that's right.
Yeah.
One of the platforms that I use a lot of for my photography is Instagram.
okay.
And there's a lot of money that can be made on Instagram. A huge one, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is YouTube. There are people, literally, there are millionaires right now based off of their YouTube channels. Case in point, the Paul brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally millionaires because of what they do. The other guy, the Destroyer, who was a football player over at UCF, and they told him that he could not do social media and play football, so he stopped playing football.
Was that the kicker?
That's the kicker.
That's the kicker.
Now he makes millions of dollars per year. Mr. Beast. I think I heard that he's going to be a billionaire in the next 6 years because of his social media presence on YouTube.
Yeah, and look at Deion Sanders' son, Deion Sanders Jr.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he's created an empire with his videography.
Yeah. So a lot of that comes from YouTube, and I tell people, listen, if you know me, you know, in most evenings or afternoons, I go to YouTube University. And what I do is, if it's something I want to figure out, something I want to learn, I go to YouTube and I research it, I look at it, and everything you want to see is right there. Now, I go down some rabbit holes sometimes, Brother Love. I was watching some stuff about some aliens last night. Aliens and ghosts. You know what I'm saying? That apparently they're real. Because they showed it to me on YouTube.
They showed it to you on YouTube. So
eyes, man.
Hey, and by the way, Let's Talk Nation happens to be on YouTube as well.
That's right, but we ain't scaring people.
We ain't scaring.
We educate people. We raising those IQs 10 to 15 points.
So Greg, I mean, just coming back full circle. I mean, United States Surgeon General Vivek Murthy has issued or proposed warning labels on social media platforms.
Yeah.
And you know, Greg, how do you accomplish that? I mean, I'm not savvy in the tech world. How do you establish that? How do you do that?
I mean, I guess, you know, and that's a great question, and we'll leave it up to the folks in Congress or the tech industry to help to determine how that happens. But, you know, my thought process is that whenever you click on the page, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, it used to be whenever you would enter certain websites or something, it would tell you, hey, you're getting ready to enter into this website or whatever the case may be, so you know not to go in there.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it would be that type of, that type of warning that people have. Hey, social media, you know, if you sit here too long or whatever, it could be bad for your mental health or something.
Digitizing. I mean, you know, it's not going to be as simple as putting a warning label on a pack of cigarettes.
Right. Yeah, it's not that simple. But for what it's worth, that one little simple warning label on the back of cigarettes changed the industry.
Yeah.
It changed the industry.
Greg, before we get off of this, and I got to throw this out.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about the dangers of social media platforms and the issuance by the Surgeon General of the warning label. Greg, was that specifically for children or minors?
So, you know, my understanding is that it's for children. And I'm assuming when we talk about children, although, you know, 18 is, you know, you're not adult, my understanding is that it's from the ages of like 16 and younger.
Okay. So, and the reason why I went there is this, Greg. When when is the law, and this is in your this is in your bailiwick, when is the law gonna catch up to social media platforms? And I'm talking about grown folk now. When you hear folk say outlandish things and slander individuals, and Greg, you tell me, there's a fine line between, I guess, saying whatever you want to say and slander. And so, when is the law going to catch up with that? When you look at the fact that folk just really have no defense against this stuff.
So I think it's the converse of that, Brother Love. I don't think social media is caught up to the law.
Caught up to the law.
Because the law is still very clear that if you make comments or statements about a person and they are false statements, then they absolutely have an action against you. Case in point, the fine young man in Massachusetts. All right. Hey, I mean, he's still on social media and he's still doing whatever, but he ain't messing with us.
Yeah.
Because I made it very clear that, listen, I know.
Hey, Greg. So important case. If people knew that they had to pay for some of the things that they say and defend themselves, do you think they'll be pulling back the Stearns a little bit?
Some will, some won't. Some people just don't care. They're just like, you know, whatever. You can't get blood out of a turnip. But my thing is, if I can get that judgment, 10 years and then another 10 years, something's gonna come through. You know what I'm saying? Something's gonna come through.
Hey, for those of you who don't know, the general is one of the baddest attorneys out there. So if you need him, don't hesitate to give him a call. Greg, man, we're going into the District 5 race that the election is taking place tomorrow.
You know what, Brother Love? I got to put my glasses on for this. Last week when we talked about something that was taking place, I knew that something in the milk wasn't clean, Brother Love. What we talked about was the fact that in this particular race, there's an African-American male, and all of a sudden, all of this negative commentary, all of these negative posts, and all of these negative things about this young man's past were coming up against him. And it was very interesting to me, Brother Love, because this wasn't someone who was new to politics.
Yeah.
Not only had he served as a state representative, but he actually worked as an aide on the House and the Senate side for the Florida legislature. And so when this stuff started coming out, I was like, wait a minute, something's not right about this. Something's just not right about it. And so the other thing too is that it also struck me as interesting in that there was one common denominator, because there was another race, and the only time I saw negative things about people coming out was when this person was running in the race. Now, I'm not going to get into the names and things like that, because I'm going to let people do whatever it is that they're going to do and do their own research. So the other thing that I didn't like, Brother Love, and I'm going to be very vocal about this, is that I think that the news media is garbage. I'm just going to say it like it is. The news media, whether it's the Orlando Sentinel, whether it's Channel 9 News, whether it's Channel 6 News, whether it's West 13, anyone that reported on this story and did not give the other side of the story is garbage. Because what you allowed to happen is, this is an African-American male who, regardless of his past, has pulled himself up by his bootstraps, is seen as a role model in his community, is seen as a role model by other black males, and instead of either staying silent about things that are taking place or reporting the other side of the story, they focus strictly on the negative of what was taking place. And I think that is a garbage job by the news media in denigrating an African-American male in these harsh times for African-American males.
But Greg, we were having this conversation last week, man. I mean, there's a common theme, and when we look at the media and this theme as it relates to how black males are being dragged, no matter what they do.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And you know, I'm not going to go all the way down the path, but part and parcel of the conversation, Greg, that we were having last week is it's a crying shame that leaders in the community are being silent to this, you know.
Well, until recently. Because we talked about this, but we were like, why are we the only ones that are talking about this, that this negative stuff is coming out, and we're not hearing some outcry from the community? And we even pointed to the fact that me personally, I can't say for you, but me personally, I'm not a big fan of Fani Willis. I'm just not a fan of hers. It's only because I don't like the way she handles certain things. Not that I don't think that she shouldn't be doing it. I don't like the way how she's handling things and how. I'm not a fan of hers. But when someone says something negative about her, we were probably the first to stand up and say, regardless of what we think about her personally, you're not going to say that without us pushing back and saying,
Come on,
"You don't say that
man. Come
about
on, we on Let's Talk Nation.
I gave y'all one time last week. I told you been since 1993. I ain't gonna say it no more. But we know what Rudy Giuliani said.
What he called her.
Yeah.
And unacceptable by any standard
It's
that was
deplorable,
unacceptable.
and we denounced it. I mean, unequivocal. We denounced that. You don't speak about African American females, white females, Hispanic females, you name it, in that way. That is not appropriate. And then to be in front of a Christian group.
And then the response. I mean, the response from that Christian group that was applauding this.
Yeah. So listen. That's where we come from. We're not just saying this just to hear ourselves saying it. We say it because we really and truly believe it. So when we hear that this young man is being drugged in the media, and then I see other news media report, oh, well, the community needs to know, or the community has a right to know. But really and truly, Brother Love, and I think I told you this, I may have told somebody else, the black community doesn't care about that stuff.
They want somebody who's going to go forward, man, and impact the issue. I will say, Greg, Rich Black. I'm gonna bring that up because Rich Black has been advocating. I mean, he's the president of his community HOA, and these folk want to know how are you going to impact and make our community better.
Right.
And so those are the conversations that they're interested in having. But man, it's a common theme, and I'm gonna say it's a common theme right now in Central Florida that if you're a black man and you're doing some things in Central Florida, you're a target.
Yeah. Yeah. Now listen, it's some that are going to do it, and they're going to say, well, what about this person? What about that person? Don't give me exceptions.
Yeah.
Don't give me exceptions when I'm talking about the rule. But so that's what I was saying. So brother, we were talking about why are we hearing more leaders in the community talking about, why are they denigrating this African American male, his character, and all these things on past issues. Everyone has had some struggles, Brother Love.
You're right.
Everybody's had some struggles. And so this weekend, or just yesterday, as a matter of fact, there were a group of community leaders, and by leaders, I'm not saying, I'm saying people that are in their community who care about what's taking place in their community. And there was a meeting that took place, and there were individuals in this community in District 5 that came together to say, why is it that the news media is attacking this black male? And not only that, they even pointed to the fact that the mailers that came out actually were paid for by his political opponent who happens to be an African-American female. Why is it that when we're running in races and running campaigns that we feel that it's necessary to tear another person down in order to lift yourself up? That is the wrong thing to do and the wrong message. And so these leaders were together and
that
they
was
were
impressive.
talking about this.
That was impressive.
They were talking about it, and that's why I want to make it a point and circle back, because Rich Black appeared to me was the person that was leading that conversation, and rightfully so. Not only that, Commissioner Hill, Regina Hill, was present at the meeting, leading the conversation about this community does not want negative campaigns. This community deserves to have clean campaigns where people just hear about the issues. And that's what this race should have been about.
And unfortunately, Greg, because there's a video out there on this piece.
Yeah.
And I didn't see till the end that the media was in the room.
So now, and this is the part that I'm kind of confused on, because I want to say I think that the media was called by the group that was meeting. That's what I think. That's where I got it. But here's the interesting thing about the love, and that's why I say the news media is garbage. Because how is it that the political opponent of the young man that's being denigrated found out about the meeting? Because my understanding is that the only people who really knew about it was the news media. And it's the same news media, from my understanding, Brother Love, that's been putting out this negative stuff about this African-American male that's running for District 5 after the garbage Orlando Sentinel endorsed her. Now, the interesting thing about that, Brother Love, we talked about this, it's the same Orlando Sentinel that when this person ran against Regina Hill basically said, there's nothing here to see. There's nothing special about her. That's what they said. Listen, go back and look. I do my research. If you don't believe me, check me out. I do my research. But this is also the same Orlando Sentinel that when Mr. McCurdy was running for State House, they endorsed him and had glowing things to say about him. Now, listen, if you find out some new stuff, some stuff that just came about, talk about it. But this stuff that they're talking about is stuff that's old, that was there before time, and this man has, thank God for redemption, because whatever it is they're saying, that's not the same person that's running, and that young man and young women look up to in his community right now.
What was impressive, and I mean, coming back full circle, was that those community stakeholders that were in that room, basically they started speaking up saying, hey, look, we want to know about what you're going to do to impact our community.
Well, no, that ain't what they was asking for.
Oh, well, they were asking for a little
That was
bit more.
part of it. That was part of it. Yeah, that was part of it. Yeah, we gonna get to what they was asking. But go ahead on that. Go ahead on that. I want you to be positive tonight, because I'm gonna be the bad guy.
But bottom line is, last week we were saying, where are the leaders? And Greg, you're absolutely right. The leaders were sitting in that room. When did that happen, though?
I want to say it was yesterday. Is what I want to say, because they were talking about the reason they were meeting, because there have been hit pieces that have been coming out against Tavares McCurdy. And another hit piece had just hit yesterday, as my understanding. Now, the part of it was this. Mr. McCurdy's political opponent sent him a text message. And in the text message it said, and I'm paraphrasing just a bit, I don't want to drag your name, but I'm giving you 24 hours to get out of this race. If you're not out of this race in 24 hours, this information is going to be released, and you're going to be asked to respond to these questions.
Greg, how do you let me back up. How do you get out of a race that your name is on the ballot? Do you
Well, you
go
can.
over,
You can do it.
So what do? Go up in front of a media and say, I'm
out. Yeah. And then now remember, something similar happened with Earl K. Woods when he passed away. Now remember, his name still remained on the ballot, and he actually won. Yeah, he won, and that's why Scott Randolph is actually the tax collector now, is because he basically stepped in the place of Earl K. Woods. That's basically how that worked. All right. So the community wanted to know, well, why are these negative hit pieces coming out, and why is his political opponent not denouncing what's taking place, which is a fair question. Why aren't you saying, listen, that's not what this community deserves. The community needs to make a decision based on issues, not based on these arrests, which like the community members were saying, anybody can be arrested, but that's not a conviction.
Yeah.
That's not a conviction. And so when the question was being posed, the person kept saying, well, it was my strategist. My strategist did. Now, Brother Love, I run 2 campaigns. 2 of them. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that if I had a political strategist, I knew everything that they were doing. Mm-hmm. And I would specifically sit in the rooms with my political strategists, and I would tell them there's certain things that we're not going to do on my campaign. Now, I ain't gonna lie, Brother Love, I had some operatives.
Yes, a circus.
Now, I did not, listen, I didn't control them. I would tell people, because ask Brian Nelson about this. Ask the mayor of Apopka about this, because he came to me about one of my surrogates, and I said, I cannot control him. There's nothing I can do. If he did it, listen, I can't control the guy. But the people that were messaging for me, that were putting stuff out in my name, or putting things out that could come back to me in print, none of that. And if it came out, I'm denouncing it just like that. Now, there's certain people that, listen, I got into some tips now. Yeah. And I think that's when Dr. Polite and I got cool, because he actually witnessed me on social media take on about like 4 or 5 people with one arm behind my back. Yeah. And put it on them.
But great, but you know what? That group, that video, if you remember, some of the things that were being said was the fact that they were sick and tired of the level. I mean, we know negativity comes in campaigns. But they were saying, man, we are really sick and tired of how low this thing is going.
There's no need to denigrate this African American male, who's a father, by the way, of a young lady. I think, I don't want to give her age because that's not my business to do that. Yeah. But I know that he's a father he has a daughter. Why would you put this stuff out there just for the sake of running in a political campaign when this is not the person that's in front of you now? So let's get back to that, Brother Love. So, in addition to asking her, what are you going to do for this community? The question was, are you going to denounce the negative campaign that's taking place? And specifically, that's being done by your political strategist, which is the Kaplan Strategies. Kaplan Strategies. Got the information right here. So Kaplan Strategies is the group that is running. Tonight, huh? Listen, man. That is running a campaign for Mr. McCurdy's political campaign, and I'll go ahead and not say the name at this point because it's public record. But he, Doug Kaplan, is running the strategies for Shan Rose, and so she basically said he did it. I didn't have anything to do with it. So she's basically putting it on Doug Kaplan. So let's talk about Doug Kaplan, since Doug Kaplan wants to talk about black men. I'm trying to figure out what gives Doug Kaplan the right to come into the black community and do what he did to Travis McCurdy. Is it just because it's a political campaign? Do you not understand that when you leave this type of scorched earth mentality, that you're not only affecting what happens in this race, but you're affecting that person's future from this point moving forward? And is that what your political strategy schools or political strategy, whatever it is that you go to, teaches you, is that you destroy people's lives just for the sake of a campaign, Mr. Kaplan? Now, the other thing too, and I went back and I looked, so Ms. Rose has paid Mr. Kaplan approximately $16,000 to put out campaign material, to include the negative material that has gone out against Mr. McCurdy. $16,000 that's gone out against Mr. McCurdy. Now, I've looked at Mr. McCurdy's financials also, and Mr. McCurdy has paid a lot of money, a lot of money, and he's paid a couple of different strategists. Nowhere have I seen that Mr. McCurdy has put anything negative out about his political opponent. Nowhere. He's been focused on the issues. He's been focused on bringing receipts to show how he can serve this community and without pulling in a negative campaign. Now, I'm gonna tell you this too, brother, and I apologize for my soapbox.
No, do your thing,
when I
man.
get on my
Do your
soapbox,
thing.
brother love, I can't get off. I looked through not only the expenditures of Ms. Rose's campaign, but I also looked through the contributions to Ms. Rose's campaign.
Where are they coming from?
They're coming from places, and I'm gonna say this. There are people on her contribution list who I know and who I respect. And if those individuals are as disgusted as I am about the turns and twists that this campaign has taken, the negativity of this campaign, then they would do likewise as, who was it that when there was negative stuff coming out and they said, take my name out of that because I don't support this. And there's some names on there, Brother Love, of people that I truly respect. If you denounce negative campaigning and the twists and turns that are taking place, and an African-American male being denigrated the way that Mr. McCurdy has been denigrated by the news media and by Ms. Rose, and by his political opponent, excuse me, I don't want to put her name in that negative thing. I want to do it as an opponent thing right now. If you're as disgusted as I am, because Brother Love, if my name was on that list, if my wife's name was on that list, I would be apologizing right now, not to Mr. McCurdy, but to the voters of District 5, because that's not what they deserve. They don't deserve this negative campaigning, this tearing down of an individual just for the sake of winning a seat.
And if you're quiet, Greg, if you're that quiet and your name is on there and you're contributed to this, and I mean, we've been having this conversation, man. I mean, I've not seen anything like this before, man.
I mean, we've seen it.
Greg,
We've seen it.
Right now, there's a common theme that's taking place, man, and that theme is on fire right now.
And it's unfortunate because it's not necessary. Run on the issues. Listen, both candidates are very smart. Both candidates, to some extent and to some degree, are well qualified to serve District 5 as a commissioner. All right? Let's just get that out there. Both of them have what I believe are the qualifications. That is not an issue or question. The issue is when you start to tear apart the community, because that's what you're doing. You're tearing apart the community when you start this negative campaign, and especially with someone who is from this community, whose family is from this community, whose child is in this community, whose friends are in this community, who has programs of young men and young women that look up to him, whose church is in this community. When you start doing those things, Brother Love, you have to ask yourself, is it really worth it?
Greg, with one day, well, shoot, man, one day.
Less than one day. It's tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right, because we'll know the results within 24 hours. Yeah, one day.
And Greg, I mean, I'm looking at what I saw on that video, man, and I think the community is going to be the final determining factor based on, do they support what's taking place and the way it's taking place and the way it's really painting the image of their community.
No, they don't. And I'm going to tell you this. If we look at what happened back in 2013, 2014, the moment that campaign turned into a bash fest against then Regina Hill for the struggles that she had and the convictions or the felony convictions that she had, that's when it swung in her favor, because the community, they understand that everyone has struggles. And you can't hold that against someone who's now saying, hey, listen, I'm reformed, I've done these things. And people are still going to backslide. Listen, that's why we go to church.
Yeah.
Hey, even my sweet Lord Jesus Christ told me, hey, you're going to mess up again.
You going to mess up? Hey, Doc Polite, man, what you got?
You know, y'all talking about my home turf, so I gotta give my 2 cents. It is sad. I agree wholeheartedly. This is so unnecessary that it's happening. And I worked with Regina when she first got elected, me and Tesla. And we had to go toe to toe with the other side because they started that negative stuff. However, but we knew how to combat that. But it was not something that we set out to address. But the things that were being said were so atrocious and ridiculous. You had to reply it at that point. And this young man has served and shown himself to be whatever you want to say, reborn, rebirth, rehabilitated, and has served with honor. Why can't we move on from that?
And Doc, and I want to just make sure that, for those of you that's in the viewing audience, if you are impacted by this, and even if you're not, we'd like to know your thoughts on this. Dial in to the show. Phone number is 321-483-7002.
But Doc, let me ask this question, because I think you made an outstanding point, and you're right. This is an area that you grew up in, so you know that demographic better than Brother Love and myself. When people start to go negative and talk about someone's past and the struggles that they've had in the past, how do people view that?
Over there, this is kind of an area that traditionally has generations living in it still from, a long time. And they have seen and heard all kind of promises and been mistreated by the city of Orlando, really, in numerous ways. And they are just looking for somebody that will help them make that community what it once was, and help the residents there. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for that type of leadership. How it goes to character. They're looking for a leader with character. They need a leader with character. When your focus is on attacking your opponent versus what can I do for the community, it shows where your interests lie. You're using that as a stepping stone. You're weaponizing this race when it's not necessary to weaponize it. Mm-hmm. It's about who has the better idea, who has the better interest, or who can generate and bring that community together and move as one. It has nothing to do with...
Doc, I think you hit something on the head when you use the word interest. Who has the community interest at heart? Now, I'm going to point this out to Greg. I know you're a good study of this, but I believe it was Commissioner's Hill last election to where there were 5 or 6 other people in the race. Mm-hmm. And it's unheard of to come out of a race like that and win with 50 plus 1% of the vote with 6 other people in the race. Yeah. So you talk about people's interests, and I think that's where the rubber's going to hit the road.
Yeah, but here's the other thing too, though, Doc. When you talk about the interest, part of that video that they were talking about, they were telling her, the community, the folks from the community were saying, listen, you want to bring Hannibal Square to District 5. We don't want Hannibal Square. You're not listening to us. This is something that you want to bring to this area. You're telling us that that we need to be concerned that Mr. McCurdy did this when you have no proof of it. First off, and you're telling us that we're protecting him, but we're telling you that number one, it's not true, and number two, that's not the main focus, because now you're being negative. We ask you all not to do negative campaigns.
Exactly, and unfortunately, again, it shows you where the potential leader mind is on what they're focusing on. If her mind is on I got to get you or by any means necessary, how well is she going to lead that community? She's going to be off doing her own thing. She's not going to be willing to compromise or listen. She's showing character right there. You know what they say,
or the lack thereof.
Yeah, when people show you who they are, what? Believe them
the first time.
Yep. So we see that. You see a young man that's buckling down. He's focused on addressing the issues to the voters versus someone running around just trying to win by smearing their opponent.
Greg, but you hit something right on the head too, man. And I was thinking about it as you were saying, and it just kind of really continued to linger with me. I have not seen a go low campaign flyer or advertisement from McCurdy.
No, and Doc said it. Listen, Doc, what did you just say? He's focused on showing how he can serve this community.
Right. He's focusing on the issues and being a leader. And I would much rather see that come about than anything else. You know, unfortunately, we live in a time where political campaigns do get muddy. But that's usually it's sort of like having that one kid on the team because he can't really play. He's a disruptor.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep getting those elected. We're getting the clowns elected that can't. Now, me and Regina kind of we fell out about some personal stuff. And one thing I did do though, I had to give her props because this young lady, she did things in that community that hadn't been done in a long time. Whatever we may think of her, we have to honor that she did more than had been done previously in that community.
Mm-hmm.
And she did. And she listened to people. And so you have to look at that. I have no problem with giving, even with my personal issues with somebody, I don't have a problem with recognizing your skills and your progress and the things that you can do for the community. Because my thing has always been about that community.
Yeah.
You know, and I think honestly what she is doing, Ms. Rose is doing, is taking the community back to Daisy days.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
you
because
said
you know
something,
if you talk about anybody that remembers her, she was always mean-spirited, vindictive, and petty. That's what the constituents. She would cuss people out and all this kind of stuff. So you know, are we headed back there? Do nothing, Daisy?
But you know, here's the other thing too, though. As I kind of was sitting here thinking about it as you were talking, Doc, you know, the person that I would have expected to be at that community meeting would have been Mr. McCurdy. Mm-hmm. And he didn't even go there and crash the meeting of the community. He allowed them to have a conversation about what was important to them.
Right.
It's, you know, and like I said, the only other way that I can think of that his opponent found out about that meeting,
The media.
is that the media leaked it to her, which is deplorable. It's absolutely deplorable because the media, this particular media, has had its hands in spreading negative. And listen, I don't even want to get into if it's true or not. And I know it sounds crazy right now. I know it sounds crazy. But they have been responsible for spreading negativity throughout this District 5 race, so much so that I don't think the District 5 would trust the media far more than it can see or throw it after this point.
The two of the media cornerstones in this community have never been positive or championed that community. They've always vilified it. They've seen it as a crime-ridden community. I grew up there. There was no crime then. You know,
But you know what?
we
You know
had
what?
it was
Break it
doctors
down.
and lawyers. No, because people don't know this.
But if the media is allowed to paint and create the narrative, and there's no rebuttal to it, then the media is driving us.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you this, though. This is the other thing I think, too, and y'all tell me what you think about this. I think the media isn't even talking to District 5. Because if you ask District 5 what was in the Orlando Sentinel, they couldn't tell you. If you ask the folks in District 5 what was on Channel 9 News, they couldn't tell. Like on their website, they couldn't tell you because
You know this
I don't
kind of
think they
stuff.
trust the media.
Hey, listen, this is part of the Lee Atwater playbook. Disparage and denigrate. It's a crime-filled neighborhood. Everything negative about that neighborhood is amplified through media channels. Why? You got to ask yourself why. And the why is already there because it can help the city continue the gentrification and displacement of those people in that community. And they've done it. I've watched it in my...
You know what? You know why I didn't see Garbage News Channel 6 or Garbage News Channel 9 or the Garbage Rag Paper Orlando Sentinel this weekend? I didn't see him at the Juneteenth Festival in Apopka.
No?
Now that's something positive.
But
I don't see them coming anywhere where something is done positive. Now, they may
Exactly.
do like a Martin Luther King Day parade, and they may do like a little sweep through and things like that, but they never come in and sit down and talk about how did this get started in this community. Because guess what? I can show you the person that can tell you how it got started. Brother Scott at St. Paul AME, along with Pastor Moss, and then you have Pastor Richard King, who is with the South Apopka Ministerial Alliance, and Hezekiah Bradford.
So you're saying they're not showing the positive things that are taking
No,
place.
they might show like a
They-
little,
they-
oh,
they
they
ne-
had a parade and they threw out some candy and look at the people out in the streets, but they never talk about the minds that said this is important in our community for our young people to see this.
They always portray us either in a negative light or in a begging light.
Yeah,
You know, we get out book bags and all of that. They focus on, they tend to focus on those who are disadvantaged in our community to tell that story, when a large percent of African Americans that live in Orlando are actually middle class and up. So they paint the picture that the entire black community in Orlando is somehow still dealing with crime and crack and all of these kind of things, when we know, you and I know, that that's not the truth.
Hey, and you know what? Because I got to referee this real quick. Because we're down to the last 5 minutes, and I mean, what we're talking about is critically important. Great. There are some things, man, I think that the general public need to know as it relates to qualifying has come and gone, right?
for which race?
For supervisor.
Oh yeah. For Orange County,
Yeah, so Greg, I hate, you got 4 minutes, but I normally hit you with this rapid fire, man. Upcoming races, man, supervisor elections.
So yeah, supervisor of election. Oh, so man, supervisor of elections are, Karen Castadental is in that race, as well as, someone who's around.
Yeah.
Cynthia Harris, we just saw her not too long ago over in the town of
You're right.
Unionville. Also Dan Helm, who I don't know, and Wes Hodge, who is actually, I don't know if he still is, chair of the DEC here in Central Florida, the Democratic Executive Committee, but he's also running. So you have 3 Democrats and an NPA that are running for supervisor of election right now.
Okay, and Greg, District 1.
District 1.
Orange County District 1.
Orange County
I'm sorry.
District 1. The young man who came and sat down and spoke to us about what his plans are for that community, Mr. Austin Arthur. He's taking a chance and he's running against the incumbent by way of Nicole Wilson. Now, it's interesting is that if you would have just waited one more cycle, it would have been a wide open race.
Well,
to see.
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Hey, Greg, Orange County Commission District 3.
So that race currently right now, Commissioner Uribe, Amara Uribe is the commissioner, and she's being challenged, Brother Love, and this is interesting. Gus Martinez, not a name that I'm very familiar with. However, if this is who I think it is, this is very interesting, Linda Stewart.
Okay.
And if this is the same Linda Stewart, this is former state senator or state senator.
Present state senator.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if this is Linda Stewart or if someone is hijacking her name and just happens to have the same name.
No, that is Senator Stewart. You're
I
right.
mean, but listen, she's making a comeback because
Yeah.
she was there once before.
You're right.
Yeah, so
Same district seat?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same district, but she was there before. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Greg, District Orange. I'm gonna say it again. Orange County District 5, not the City of Orlando District
Yeah,
5. but
Orange County District 5. So Joy Goff Marcel was a state representative. She actually got the seat that our good friend Commissioner Cortez was actually in, Bob Cortez for a time period. Joel Montella, as well as Kelly Simrad and Steve Leary.
Steve Leary was the former mayor of Winter Park.
That's why the name
Yeah.
sound familiar. I was like, the name
Yeah.
sound familiar. Okay, so yeah, so we have, and if I had to, I don't know, that's going to be a good race between Leary and Goff Marcel. So that's going to be a real good race.
Real interesting. Hey, Greg, state attorney.
So listen, let's go this way. State attorney, you have in this race Thomas Fighter, Seth Hyman, but now you also have Andrew Bain, who is the current state attorney for the Ninth Circuit, who was appointed by the governor of the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who's running against Monique Worrell, which interestingly just last week the Florida Supreme Court ruled in favor of Governor DeSantis and saying that he was well within his authority as governor to remove her for not doing her job as state attorney. So it's going to be interesting.
And Greg, with the few seconds that we have, I gotta say, man, I'm watching what Andrew Bain is doing, man, as state attorney, and he's out there, man, everywhere, and he is representing public safety.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say
Absolutely.
that. And great, last but not least, public defender.
Public defender, and this young lady is going to be coming in to sit down and talk to us. So we want our listeners to be and our watchers to come and check us out when we have Miss Lenore Easter on, and she's actually running against another Democrat, Melissa Vickers. Which Miss Vickers, listen, if you want to come in, introduce yourself to Let's Talk Nation, that is fine. But I know for a fact that Miss Lenore Easter has expressed an interest in coming, sitting down, meeting, and talking to Let's Talk Nation.
Hey, all right, there you have it. You got the roll up, and this is why it's important to tune in to Let's Talk Nation, because we're here every Monday.
Hey, can I say something?
Go ahead.
Garbage News, Channel 9, Channel 6.
Well, you
and
was on
Garbage,
tonight.
Orlando Sentinel. I just want to leave on that note.
Hey, and you know what? With no seconds left, Greg, you do not have to get out of here.
You ain't got to go home.
You ain't got to go home, man. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
But you got to get out of here. So
Hey.
you mad at them too.
Hey, I must be. Hey, but Greg, man, brother, I tell you, man, tonight was filled with a lot
So
of
wait.
information.
When you say you ain't got to go home, we supposed to be done. So
We
let's
supposed
do
to be
this
done?
again. Go.
All right, man. Hey, you ain't have to go home.
But you got to get out of here.
Until next week on Let's Talk Nation, hey, tune in because you're going to get a lot more of this. We'll see you next week.